My name is Mike Speer. I'm a business strategy director at Salesforce. I want to talk about innovation on the platform. First off, like I said, thank you guys. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come join us. I'm happy to see you guys come in, listen to me talk, even though I'm probably full of shit. Thank you. So, my own safe harbor, these are my opinions and my experiences. It's nothing that Salesforce recommends. I've been consulting for 8 years, and I've seen a lot of weird stuff and talked about a lot of weird stuff, and want to share some of the experience of how we use that weird stuff to innovate on the platform. All right, a couple clarifications for the conversation we're going to have. It's a little bit misleading, but I'm not going to be talking about how Salesforce innovates with our products or our services. One, I don't know, because I'm not on the product side, I'm on the services side. But two, it's kind of like a trade secret that I really can't share if I knew anyway. So if anyone wants to leave because of that, we're going to give you the door to start right now. If you may have noticed, Dan, sit down. If you may have noticed, I use sentence enhancers quite a bit. I was told yesterday I was the only person to cuss during the panel. So if you see me physically strained at some point, I'm probably trying to think of how not to speak without dropping an F-bomb. So please don't be offended if I do. I grew up in a construction family, and it's just part of my soul. So a little bit of a slight change of agenda. Okay, that's hard to see too. That's better. So during the brief, I wrote it well in advance of writing the slides and figuring out what I want to talk about. And so thinking about it more, the technology piece is actually the least important aspect of innovation. It's the mechanism that we use to innovate, but it's not how we do it. It comes from the context that you work in, the business people that you work with, and the situation you're in. So we're going to talk about what are the attributes you need, what's the most important piece of innovation, and we'll talk a little bit about technology at the end. And also, guys, if you have any questions, just shout out in the middle of it. We don't need to wait till the end. I tend to talk quickly whenever I get excited about something, so I'm going to try to be slow and methodical, but this may be pretty quick. All right, talk about my role. So my role, the title is very ambiguous, but my role is that I lead the state and local services for Salesforce. I help with the scoping, the estimation, the design up front, and staying on the projects as the technical escalation point and kind of technical leadership. If you want to know about all my stats, check out my LinkedIn page. I don't want to bore you with all the certifications and all the other baloney that I have. But what's my most important qualification? That's hard to see too. But it says I'm a failure. And that's a good thing. Because whenever you fail, a couple things. One acronym I like, it's your first attempt in learning something. But if you're not going to fail at something, you don't know what works, you don't know what doesn't work, you can't grow. And as you're growing and as you're failing, figuring out how to work with people. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. How do you work with people? How do you get them engaged? How do you understand what they want to do and how to drive them forward? That's where the innovation happens, and stumbling over those points. So how do we get out of the shadow of the failure? So we got three key attributes to innovate. You need grit. And grit, I've recently read Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, and she defines it as passion and perseverance. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's a good book. I don't get any money from saying that, but it's pretty cool. But you have to be passionate about what you're doing. A lot of the consultants that I work with, Beck and I were just talking about this, most people want to help people, and you want to drive forward and make people's lives better, and technology is a great vehicle to do that. Having perseverance. Sometimes you got to be a stubborn ass, and sometimes you got to drive through, and you got to bang your head against the wall, and you trip and get up. And that's all part of the failure and getting back up and kind of going through it again. And you really need that if you're going to drive innovation. You have to be curious. A couple months ago, I'm trying to think where I read it, but you have to have a beginner's mind and lead with curiosity. I talked a little bit yesterday about asking 5 whys and drilling down to the root cause of a problem. You really have to know what people are doing, how they work, how they want to work. And if you can't dive in and really just clean your slate, be humble about it, and just, you don't know what the business process is. And really learn from scratch and see what they're doing. You're not going to be able to innovate. And the last part is humility. I was going to put up there a slightly different word, but you have to not care. And you have to not care that you're going to fail. You're going to have to not care that you don't know everything. You're going to have stupid ideas. Amanda tells me I have stupid ideas all the time. But if you don't throw that stuff out there and change your perspective about what's going on, how people are working, you're not going to innovate. And that all the context comes, and that's when you drive innovation. All right, the most important aspect of innovation is the people you work with and the partnerships you have. Like I said, you're not going to just sit there and have $1 million idea, eating a sandwich or a salad, and this is the next thing that's going to revolutionize the world. That just doesn't come to you. That's built on your experiences of working with business, having problems, working through things. Usually the best innovation are small incremental changes you're making with technology or process improvements in that contextual situation that you're working. Spend a lot of time with customers, and you see the same thing over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's a steel manufacturer or a pharmaceutical company or an aerospace and defense contractor. A lot of it's the same thing over and over again with a different flavor on top of it. And a cake is still a cake. You have the batter, you have the frosting, you have the sprinkles on top, whatever else you want. But it's still a cake. And knowing that and kind of driving down to the derivatives of what the problem is and what people are trying to do, you can pull from other situations. But you don't know that if you don't partner with the people you're trying to help. So getting in and knowing and having a clean slate and really understanding, we talked about it yesterday too, being human about it. What are the problems you're trying to solve? And the more you spend time with people and build that relationship, you get a lot of information out of people. Whenever I first started, I worked at a construction company right out of college, and I've been a technologist since in high school. And I would go, well, my Excel doesn't work. How do I do this? Or I can't start my computer. Like little easy stuff. I'd sit with our AP ladies and our payroll ladies, and oh, let me show this. And I was a young, fresh-faced, 24-year-old kid out of college, and they'd sit down and we'd start chatting a little bit, and they tell you everything. They about their problems with their kids. They tell you about this. But they also talk about, well, I've got this other problem over here with what we do. And it's those conversations that lead to finding those little pieces of innovation. And it may be something really small and simple that you know how to do that they don't know how to do. But it kind of blows people away. And using that trust to start the process and talk about what you can do is how you just drive innovation, continual improvement in what the process and technology are. The other aspect of it is, going back to the humility piece, you have to know you don't know everything, and you have to know what you don't know. So I'm kind of happy with this equation. I came up with it at like 1 o'clock on Tuesday morning as I was putting my slides together. And thinking about it, it's what, within the platform, within any technology, whatever situation you're doing, what are your certainties? What do you know works? What do you know how things work? You have to take that. Bless you. Then you have to take your assumptions of, with that knowledge base that you have, what do I think I can do? How do I stretch the boundaries of how Salesforce works, how Microsoft works, whatever the technical solution is, what can we do? How can we make it stretch? I think we can do this. You're not going to know everything, so you have to kind of make some assumptions based on some transitive properties of technology. Then you have to add in your creativity. And some of that is just listening to other people talk and talk about the process. One thing that I really like to do is I like to listen to a lot of random stories about how people use Salesforce, how people do this, how people use other tools with their job. I'm fairly new to Slack. I've only started using it since I was at Salesforce. And I'm working a lot with our Slack team with some of my customers to say, how do other companies do this? And one company I'm working with is a transportation agency, But I'm talking about how Slack works for airlines. Transportation is a little bit similar. But then how does this other Department of Housing use Slack? Or how does this other company use Slack? And hearing those other stories of how people use technology, it allows you to change your perspective. And if I'm standing here, I'm looking at the back wall. If I come over here, oh, now I see there's shelves in the back, and there's books and other things. You don't see that if you stay in the same spot and use the same mindset that you have the whole time. So hearing how other people are doing their work, what their processes are, a slight shift in perspective makes a huge world of gains from how you change and innovate. I thought of this a while ago, and it makes me laugh every time, because I was a huge Married with Children fan. And the one thing that stuck with me after I started consulting, whenever I had kids, I'd be up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, holding babies, watching Married with Children. And this episode came on of Kelly Bundy. She only ever knew 4 pieces of knowledge. And to me, that's a quintessential Salesforce person. You know so much, you learn so much, but there's so many releases, there's so many technical updates. Things are moving so fast now, you forget a lot of stuff. So if I'm going to pick up manufacturing cloud, I'm going to forget some service cloud stuff. Or I'm going to forget that workflows do this, or you can do that. So every time you told Kelly Bundy something, you add a new thought, something else came out of her brain, she forgot who it was or what it was. And you have to go, that takes me back to being the humble. You have to know you're going to forget stuff. I'm running workshops right now of end user reporting enablement. I Google stuff on the fly while I'm sharing my screen because I don't remember how to do this reporting thing. They're brand new customer trying to figure out how we stretch and push the boundaries and be innovative with their reporting capabilities because they have a new tool. I don't remember how to start a joint report like that. I'll Google it, and part of it is I like to show them how I think about using Salesforce and how easy it is to find information. I've been doing this since 2010. I don't remember everything. No one's going to remember everything. You can't remember everything because it's moving so quickly. So you have to have that humility to say, okay, let me figure it out. And a big thing is, I don't know, let me find out for you and get back to you. So as long as you have that open mindset and your willingness to process and work with people, I think that's how you innovate too. If you go back, you do some research, you think about things more. Oh, I forgot we could do this. That's a perspective shift. Now we can do this, and let me think about it. Now I know a little bit more. I can infer something else, and you've got a whole new product, and you fix the problem. You've done it creatively. All right, I've got a couple recommendations for innovation. It's collaborating more is the first one, and to me, this is very important. Before I came to Salesforce, I had a team of, I think, 18 people on 2 Scrum teams. And collaboration was a huge focus of how we worked. There were senior people, junior people, mid-level people, QA, BAs, Scrum Master, a couple product managers, like every flavor of person and skill set that we had, and we all talked about problems. And as much as I hate recurring meetings, we had one every Thursday. It was just a design jam. And we came in and said, who's got a problem? Let's talk through it. What have we done here? What do we know? How other functionality works? What does the business want from this vertical or this business unit? We've got other stuff over here. Can we share or take what they have and modify it a little bit or add a feature that can be beneficial to both? So using the Hive mindset and really sharing knowledge and experience of, you need the business-specific understanding of what they want to do with that technical collective mind so you can change and improve. Like I said, make small incremental changes for improvement and innovation. The second one, increasing your non-thinking activities. When I'm in the shower, when I'm driving my car, when I'm mowing the lawn or shoveling mulch, I'm not thinking, I'm just kind of existing. A lot of times I drive, I don't know how I got from point A to point B. But while I get there, I have these oh shit moments like, I can do this, or I can do that. And a lot of people say, go out and go for a walk and clear your head. it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you're not thinking about the problem, you need to give your brain time to kind of just absorb and think. Part of the reason why I didn't do this presentation until 1 a.m. on Monday night is because I was thinking for 3 weeks. I wrote the brief of what do we want to talk about? How do I want to do this? And having that processing time, I think, it's key. One thing I'm going to add to that is being present. And if you're multitasking, you're missing out. If you're not in the conversation when you're talking about the problem, you're missing out. I'm horrible at email. I've got like 15,000 unread emails because I try to not, I've made a conscious effort the past year, be in the meetings, talk through things, think about it. If I can't participate and pay attention, I'm not joining the meeting because I'm not going to add any value. It's a waste of my time sitting there, and people are getting pissed at me for not paying attention. So being present so that you absorb everything, and then when you're cutting your grass, or you're zoning out on something else, you think and you come up with these solutions. And the last thing is another one I came up with late, super caffeinated on Monday night, was to be Icarus. To refresh your memory, because I'm sure not everyone's familiar with Roman mythology, but Icarus was the son of Daedalus, and Daedalus made the wings of feather and wax. And Icarus took off and flew too close to the sun, and the wings melted, and he fell and died. You don't need to fly that high, but don't be afraid to try to go that high. I said before, I throw a lot of stupid ideas. You never know what's going to resonate, you never know what's going to stick, but you have to shoot high to innovate. And if you do that, then not everything's going to work. You may go up, you may go down. But if you don't shoot high, you're never going to get there. It's like Kenny Rogers said, you can't win what you don't put in. So you really have to make strides and try to innovate and be curious and shoot for the moon.